1994 BHS graduate, Melissa Haugberg DiBartolo.
Come on, babe, why don't we paint the town? And all that jazz, I'm gonna lunge my knees and roll my stockings down. And all that jazz, start the car, I know a whoopee spot where the gin is cold and the piano's hot. Just a noisy hall where there's a nightly brawl and all that jazz. All That Jazz is the captivating opening number for Chicago. As Jen mentioned earlier, we started the performance tonight with another opening, another show. This was a tradition here at BHS that longtime director, Tony Georgian, kept alive for all of our potpourris. Tonight, we honor Mr. Tony Georgian. My biggest takeaway from my Master's Guild experiences lie not only in the theatrical traditions Mr. G taught us, but also the sense of pride he fostered in what we were creating together. Pride we carried with us on and off of this stage. Mr. G was always clear that there were no small parts. He was emphatic that the background acting was equally as important as what was happening in the scene. His direction of simple and meaningful gestures and staging of movement in theatrical triangles solidified the notion that we were not doing your typical high school theater. Actually, it is those smaller parts I played that stuck with me the most. In our potpourri featuring Zorba, he had the chorus act as angry crow-like witches at the Hortense death scene, layered with Greek sounds not part of the score, meaningful. One of my other favorite memories was while part of a Jacques Brel sextet, where I played a clock in Old Folks. There was only one haunting line for me to sing at the end, "I'll wait for you." That, combined with the movement of the hands of the clock, added weight to the performance. Simple. Other times we engaged in lighter subjects, the check your brains at the door theater, as Mr. G would say, where everything would happen in one day. They meet, they fall in love, like in The Boyfriend. Yes, there was the legendary no clowning rule in effect, but we certainly had fun. However the students came to find and take part in the Master's Guild, we learned so much and were part of something all together. And I'm proud that for one day more, we're all part of again. Thank you, Tony, for your inspired teachings, dedication, mentorship, and all that jazz.
From the class of 1993, Danny Serino.
I hear a bouzouki. You can't imagine how often I've heard a bouzouki, but each time is the first time. A hat, a dumbek, a person, each time is new. For instance, I came up and talked to you. Look how interesting I am, huh? Even if it's not a long talk, even if we don't talk the same language. Do you want to hear a story? No? Then I'll tell you. End scene. Zorba of the Greek is a man who cherished every event in his life as if it was the first time. In the over 30 years that Tony Georgian inspired Bethpage High School students to be a part of the theatrical experience, each time was the first time. Whether you called him Mr. Georgian, Tony, or G, you knew him as a man who brought his love of the performing arts to this high school and to this community. Young teenagers who thought they would act in more pop culture musicals were suddenly challenged with more difficult performances. Performances such as Mad Woman of Shiloh, The Boyfriend, Little Mary Sunshine, and The Pajama Game, just to name a few. Musical scenes, acts and plays that dare young adults to step away from their comfort zones and assume the roles of characters with much more life experience and age. Well, tonight, many of us have returned to perform these roles with that life experience and age, some more than others, that we so lacked in our high school years. And suddenly, we get it. Hours, days, and weeks toiling in this very room on this stage, under the direction of Mr. Tony Georgian, who ordered us always to stay in character and not the clown, as teenagers will often do, to avoid the I go, you go, he goes, she goes of robot-like line delivery, to wait for that dramatic pause, and to act with the vigor of someone whose life we couldn't possibly fathom at the time due to our collective immaturity. And it all made sense now. Because if someone has a passion and they're willing to share that passion with others, you realize that their inspiration will take you to heights you could have not dreamed. And that too, Mr. Tony Georgian is, to so many people, an inspiration, a mentor, and a director. Not just to the motivated thespian, but to the high school athlete who wanted to take a try at performing, or the occasional faculty member or alumni. Why? Because all were invited to pretend, to imagine, and to create. Tony's dedication to the performing arts of Long Island continues today at his theater in the town of Merritt. Even in retirement, he inspires people to entertain and to dream. Over the past 2 years, I've watched, as many of you probably have as well, performances of The Sound of Music and Peter Pan live on national television. Live from this town, in this neighborhood. And as I watched those broadcasts, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride, knowing that those musicals were exactly where they belong, coming from a community that has fostered generations of men and women to love the performing arts, and like Tony Georgian, to share their gifts with the world as if it was their first time. So I say to you, Mr. Georgian, Yasu, Eferisto, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the rest of the evening.
Please welcome back to the stage 1975 graduate Anne Molowski-Kassin.
I've walked in the dawn on somebody's arm and looked at the fire.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the stage a 1975 graduate of Bethpage High School, Elise Lacurto.